Today is January 8th, 2024. My name is Rob Carr of Kalamazoo Right to Life, and this is Pro-Life Week. Well, really only one thing on the docket today, but before I get to that, I just wanted to pencil in one item. A week from today, January 15th, is the Iowa caucus. Now, this is the first main event in the process of picking a Republican and hopefully a pro-life Republican candidate for president. And actually, they're all the candidates running for the Republican Party are pro-life, so that's kind of a given. But they're going to come together that night. They're going to caucus for their candidates, and they're going to decide who they want to represent them at that Republican convention. So, if we want to see Joe Biden permanently resigned or rejected from the White House, cast aside, so to speak, we need to make sure that we get the best, most effective, and strongest and electable pro-life candidate. So be in prayer this next week that the Republicans in Iowa who do attend that caucus, prayerfully pick the right person. I really do. And Joe Biden has been one of the most pro-abortion presidents in American history. I mean, Bill Clinton was pretty pro-abortion. Barack Obama was more pro-abortion. And Joe Biden falls right in line with Obama, is being very hostile to pro-life conviction, the pro-life movement, defense for the unborn, just the lives of the unborn children, rejecting science about fetal development, the ultrasounds, the baby in the womb, DNA. These people are science deniers. There's just no getting around the fact that Obama and Biden have been science deniers when it comes to the humanity of the unborn child. Okay, moving on to the main thing I wanted to mention, and that is a story that I just saw this morning from lifenews.com. And I'll be reading part of the article. The headline says it all. Abortion activists only get community service after pro-abortion mob assaults pro-life activists. I'm not the only one, I'm sure you've seen it too, that ever since the Biden administration took power, that there has been a decided two-tier level of justice. If you're pro-life, if you're a Christian, they'll try to throw the book at you. But no, you think back to 2020, the George Floyd incident. The police officers were tried and convicted, serving prison time. But after that incident, there were dozens and dozens of riots all across the country, primarily in Seattle and Portland and Minneapolis, but they really were all over the country. Antifa got involved, Black Lives Matter got involved. They were burning federal buildings and courthouses. They were torching police cars. They were burning down businesses and homes and conducting a lot of vandalism and violence. So how many, put your thinking cap on, how many people do you remember get arrested and were tried and convicted of those 2020 George Floyd related riots from either Antifa members or Black Lives Matter? How many people were convicted of those crimes of riots and vandalisms and burnings and assaults? I'm having a hard time remembering. I want to get into that Wayback Machine and go back 3 years, but I don't really remember the government really going after these people. And actually, that was in the last year of the Trump administration. So, and I know he had a lot on his mind with COVID, but still, I did not see a lot of activity regarding arresting these people and bringing them to justice. But But we did see in 2022 and 2023 pro-lifers being arrested for minor infractions, but they were all related to this nebulous FACE Act. And I talked before about Mark Houck from Philadelphia arrested for violating the FACE Act because he pushed down a clinic escort in Philadelphia in front of an abortion clinic who had been harassing his 12-year-old son. And I'm sorry, it seems like every time I do these tapings, a plane goes by. Anyway, he had been harassing his son, he pushed him down, and they charged him with a FACE Act violation for an assault. And if convicted, he was going to get 11 years in prison. Well, he was in trial. The jury spent 1 hour and found him not guilty of all charges. So that was good. But there's still more people who are still like awaiting their trials. And we'll see how these all play out. But the case I'm going to read about today comes from Richmond, Virginia. Comes from an incident that happened at Virginia Commonwealth University, better known as VCU. And I'll be reading here. On March 29, 2023, Antifa and pro-trans activists attacked pro-life students and speakers at a scheduled talk at VCU called Lies Pro-Choicers Believe. And remember, this is a presentation by pro-lifers, by Students for Life. Turning Point USA Ambassador Isabel Brown and Students for Life President Kristen Hawkins were going to give the talk, but were met with hateful chants that escalated to violence. Quote, after a series of altercations unfolded, a number of pro-life students and Students for Life staff were assaulted, resulting in several complaints filed and EMTs called to the scene to treat injuries, said a Students for Life press release. Autumn Wassler, president of Students for Life at VCU, received an injury to her leg while a fellow student suffered cuts and scratches from aggressive protesters clawing at her. City police were called and oddly detained Students for Life team members and the pro-life students, allowing the Antifa and transgender activists to disperse peacefully. Now, am I surprised that the pro-lifers were the ones that were detained? I'm not surprised. Disappointed? Yes. Surprised? No. Because we have this two-tier system where if you are right, you're in the wrong. But if you're doing the crime, you get away with murder, so to speak. Okay. Meanwhile, peaceful pro-life individuals were behind closed doors, and Students for Life property and signs were stolen and vandalized. Okay. Well, 2 people were arrested or charged with simple assault, and they faced up to a year in prison and a fine. They were Natalie Hoskins III, age 22, and Anthony Marvin, age 30. Neither person was a student at VCU, but they came in to engage in some fisticuffs, so to speak. Both Hoskins and Marvin got through the incident relatively unscathed, however. They will serve an unspecified amount of community service and will have no criminal record. Quote, Hoskins has allegedly completed 20 hours of community service, and the charges against her were subsequently dropped, according to court documents. Okay, now, I'm not saying that some scratches, maybe to her leg and to her arm, I'm not saying that these assaults would rise to the level of a year in prison. I'm not saying that. But I do want to go back to the Mark Houck 11-year charge that the jury helped him get passed. But the Biden administration wanted him to serve the 11 years. And here, they're only given 20 hours of community service with no criminal record. So, I just want to see equal treatment under the law. I mentioned before, Lady Justice has a blindfold on, and she's got a blindfold on for a reason. She does not look at your wealth, your status, your education, your influences in society. Whether you're rich or poor, Lady Justice demands that we treat you as an individual, not as a protected class of people. And so often we see in recent years that if you are a conservative, if you are pro-life, you are treated to a different standard than if you are a liberal activist, engaging in, I would say, violent behavior, riots, burnings. And after the Dobbs leak came out in May of 2022, there were dozens and dozens of cases where pro-life offices were vandalized, pregnancy care centers were vandalized, churches were vandalized, some statues were defaced and spray painted, and things were done. Homes of the Supreme Court justices weren't bombed or thrown Molotov cocktails. It wasn't like that, but people were protesting in front of their homes. And according to federal law, you cannot perhaps invade the sanctuary of a person's home by trying to influence a future decision, because they were trying to help these judges change the votes on the Dobbs decision. Well, by all rights, the people who were protesting in front of Justice Barrett's home or Alito or Kavanaugh's home, they should have been arrested for violating a federal law that you can't protest in front of a federal judge's home. Were they arrested? No, they weren't arrested. They were not arrested. There were no charges brought against these people. So I'm going to finish here. All I'm asking for is equal treatment, equal justice under law. Remember that Iowa caucus a week from today. With that, I'll let you go, and I'll see you next time.